I want to welcome you back to the Grit for Life video series and podcast on how we see ourselves in instructing you on how to understand that you are the hero that you need. We've taken a look at a few different things already, and one of the things we've taken a look at is that a hero is the right person at the right place at the right time doing the right thing. But before we get to that point, so many times in our lives, we can't really see the power that we have and the purpose that we have because we haven't identified something that many motivational speakers talk about. But I hope that I can bring it to you in a different perspective today, and that is our why. As a military member, having served in the military, one of the things that I learned over and over and over is that in the military, I don't serve for me. I don't do the things, and I did not do the things in the military for myself. I did it for my brothers and my sisters. I did it for my country. I did it for those who couldn't do it. And then later on, when I was a firefighter and in law enforcement, that same perspective, that same passion of servanthood, of understanding why I did it. Many people say, well, I don't understand how heroes do what they do. I don't understand how a firefighter can run into a burning building or a law enforcement officer can run towards shots and when everyone else is running away, or how can a military member go and be deployed into a battle zone not knowing if they're coming home. And I know from experience that it's not something I thought about. I was called upon. I was the right person at the right place at the right time doing the right thing. But that wouldn't have been enough. What I had to understand when I began to really digest and really dissect, I guess is a better word for it, on why did I do it? Why did I not seem to really, some people say care, and I did care. I wanted to come home. I don't, there's a song that talks about, I don't want to die. There's a song by, man, my mind just went blank. Keith Urban. And he talks about, I don't want to die for you, but I will if I have to. And I will say that every person that I served with, that's their feeling. And I thought, well, let's look at that for a second, because how can we apply that mentality to our life? And how does that mentality even come across? How do we come about that? How is it that someone who rushes into a battlefield or into danger is able to do that with sometimes what people would say disregard for their own life? And I would say the reason for that is the why. I understood that at that moment, I couldn't change where I was at and that there was a bigger purpose. You see, we have forgotten so many times in our lives because of the things that come and attack us and the things in our lives that build upon us and put us down and weigh heavy on our backs and weigh heavy on our souls, weigh heavy on our minds, and in a way destroy us. We have forgotten that we are a creature of purpose. We weren't just placed here on this earth just to exist. And yet that is what we are doing so many times. How do we get past that? I think a lot of times it comes to understanding that life has its defining moments. And we talked about in the last podcast that, being the right person at the right time in the right place. Well, the right time is that defining moment. I've had points in my life where I had to realize, guess what? I look around and I'm like, I'm the one responsible. I'm responsible for my response. And guess what? When I went through, I've been married 4 times. When I went through my first 3 marriages, when I got done with my 3rd divorce, I had to stop for a minute and I had to say, okay, I can point fingers left and right all day long. But there's one common thread in all of this, and that's me. So what do I do with that knowledge? And when we take ownership of our life and we have that defining moment that says, guess what? I'm in charge of my success. I'm in charge of my failures. I'm in charge of my ups and my downs. And I am in charge this moment right here, right now. I am the person here, and I am the person that will make the decision on where I go from here. That, my friend, is a defining moment. When I was in the military, we had times, or even in law enforcement or firefighting, we had times where someone had to make a decision. We couldn't all just stand there and look at each other and wait for someone else to make a decision. That is a defining moment. And I'm telling you, if you're watching this video right now, this is your defining moment. I don't know what you're going through in life. I don't know your struggles. I don't know your burdens. I don't know your dreams, your goals. I don't know your failures. You are the only one that does. And you are the one who has the power to change it. When we sit there and blame other people and we point fingers left and right, we are not taking ownership, and we are allowing the power of our life to be taken from us. But when we can take ownership of it, that becomes our defining moment. When we think of heroes, even if we look at the comic books, Batman had a defining moment. It was when his parents were taken from him. He said, wow, that's not cool. This was a devastating moment. And defining moments sometimes are good, sometimes are bad. It is that moment where you stand up and say, I'm done. I am going to take charge of my life here and now. No one else is going to have the authority of my life, my ups, my downs, my success, my failures. Nobody. I am. And when we do that, we have that defining moment. We say, we're done. I've had those moments. When I came to a point in my life after one of my divorces, and I was homeless, I was unemployed, I had been kicked out of the house, and I stood there and I go, dang, this is my fault. I'm the only one to blame. I am miserable. I am not where I thought I would be at this point of my life. Who can change that? Me. I'm done feeling sorry for myself. I'm done being the victim. You know, there were so many times in my life where I would point back and I go, well, it was my childhood. It was my family. Or it was me being molested when I was 8 years old. No, I'm not there anymore. I'm not in the past. I'm in the here and now. I am in the present. And if the future is going to change, we have to understand that we have to break that cycle. And the reason being, the reason that we see a cycle in our life so much, and if you have the courage to stop right now and literally write on paper all the things that have gone what you think have not gone your way, I would imagine that you will begin to see a cycle, a constant cycle. I hear people say, man, I keep finding the same type of relationships. Well, there's one common denominator in that. That's you. You are the one who keeps finding it. Or I have people say, I just can't hold down a job. I keep finding the same job, or I keep messing up. There's a common denominator. It's you. It's not the bosses. It's not the job. It's not the other person in the relationship. You are the common denominator in your life. And when you can take a look in the mirror and say, I'm done right here, right now, I'm going to break this cycle. What do I need to do? Now that is the hardest part, because what has happened is we've gotten a habit of that cycle. That's why it's a cycle. In order to break it, we have to understand our why. We have to say, why do I want to change? Why do I need to change? Why is it that I keep doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results? You probably have heard the statement that is foolishness at its basic definition, is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And so now is the time to break the cycle and say, what is my why? My why became my mental sanity. My why became my future and my goals. My why are my children. And now my wife. My why said, I will no longer live this way. And the only person that can change that is me. My why for Grit for Life is being able to take the lessons I've learned and to teach you so that you can make a better life for yourself. You have to break the cycle. You have to want to break the cycle. Why? Because you're tired of living the way that you're living. Why? Because you have more purpose and more power within you than you realize. Why? Because now is the time to wake up. Now is the time to have that awakening moment to say, all right, I'm done. But it requires some soul searching. Soul searching is so hard for us because it requires us to be honest with ourselves. And the society doesn't want us to be honest with ourselves. Society constantly is throwing entertainment in all these commercials, and they're telling us, oh, well, you're this. And we get, especially on apps like TikTok and Facebook and different things, we thrive on other people telling us it's okay. Well, if you have friends that are constantly telling you that you're not at fault, if you have friends that are constantly telling you that you're okay, but yet you know in your head you're not because you continue the cycle, then you need to get rid of those friends because they're not really friends. Real friends will step up and say, hey, you screwed up. When I went through a couple of my divorces, I would sit there and feel sorry for myself. And I would say, well, you know what? If she hadn't done this and I had real friends that stepped up and say, yo, dude, you have done the same thing in your marriages. You see the same pattern here? The problem is not necessarily them. Maybe they had a part of it, but you can't control them. Your response is your responsibility, and you keep screwing this stuff up. And I had to go, wow, they're right. I had that awakening moment. Heroes have a moment where they rush in. They realize when I was involved as a law enforcement officer, I was involved when I was a law enforcement officer involved in an officer-involved shooting, I realized no one was going to wait. I had people that I had to make sure were safe. In a split second, I had to make the decision that I am the right person at the right place at the right time, and I am having an awakening moment. If I don't come back, at least I saved somebody. And you go for it. The person you are about to save is yourself. You are your own hero. But you have to have that defining moment where you say, I take responsibility for my actions. I am going to break the cycle. I am going to change. Why? And find your why. Write down your why. Embrace your why and start the change. Becoming a hero doesn't happen overnight. Becoming a hero is a change from the inside out. When I was 19 years old and joined the military, I would never thought I would have been doing things that people would later say that's heroic. To this day, I don't see it that way, but they do. But it took me learning and changing from the inside out. I graduated high school as a bullied nerd geek, weighing a lot less than I do now. No self-confidence whatsoever. Never would have been able to make a video like this. Never would have been able to start a motivational company. But it took time. But it also took me having some awakening moments. And if you will start looking and seeing the pattern of your life, the pattern of your relationships, even as small and minute as if you're in a relationship and you continually have arguments with your significant other, try to find the circle. I know when I used to have a temperament and I used to have problems with arguing. And I could see it. When I look back, I can see where my significant other would say something and I would feed off of it. And I wouldn't take my response. I did not understand. My response was my responsibility. And I'd feed off of it and she'd feed off of it and then we'd feed off it. And we'd constantly go in circles. It took one person to understand it's my responsibility to stop this, step away, and change the pattern. And when you do, the cycle is broken. You have your awakened moment, and now you're on the path to rescuing somebody, and that somebody is you. Your response is your responsibility. Be your own hero. You are full of purpose. You are my hero. Thank you for being a part of this.